sharp pointed ends to actually go into the sand and then dab back out again, rather than your fingers, because once you put your fingers in, it all tends to jumble up everywhere. If you can, try and get hold of any stainless steel scissors. AJ Holland sell them, Acroindustry sell them. You can actually use normal tweezers that you pluck your eyebrows with if you need to. They're a bit short though, because you have to get quite tight. These obviously a lot easier to use because you can go quite high. You don't have to bend into the tank or catch your arms. So
I just want to mention that Stu's going on there is you can get different sort of qualities of tweezer. The way I try and explain it to people who have never spoken to them about it before is when you're buying a set of tweezers, you've got to think about the transfer of pressure in your fingers down to this point of the tweezer. There's a really cheap tweezers, you'll find that you'll be putting maybe a lot of pressure and it transfers down to here. That it's not an equal amount of pressure, so you're actually physically crushing plants. And a plant like this, you need to be very delicate, so you need to be able to know that the pressure that you're putting on this section of the tweezer is the same as that. It's quite a picky thing to do, but I think if you want to protect the plant, you want to be able to know that when you put that plant in, it's actually going to survive, and you're not going to introduce any rot or any damage to the stems. Finding that transfer of pressure from your fingertips to the end of the tweezers is quite important. It's worth paying a little bit extra for that. Like I say, some of the cheaper brands are not quite good for that, but you know, look for it. ADA ones are real nice. I mean, they work really nice. Also, looking at different types of tweezers, you've got some straight ones, some slightly curved ones. You can get a bigger, you've got a bigger set of tweezers. But each tweezer has its own job. When you get very straight, very fine tweezers, here we go. Yeah, so here we go. So we've got curved, we've got a big, robust pair of straights, and then we've got a very fine pin needle set of the other tweezers. These ones, generally, when you're using a curve, you're holding a curve like that, and you're basically giving yourself enough room so that if you've got any wood coming into the tank, you need to try and get underneath a piece of the wood. The curve will get you underneath certain objects and certain pieces of wood and things like that. The next set, big robust pair. These are basically you're using things for Echinodoras, cryptocolumns, anything with a big root system like these type of plants here, and the plants at the back. You need something with a broad grip on the front. Good purchase at the top, so you can put plenty of pressure, you can hold the plant and you can actually physically push it deep into the tank. So you need a good pair of robust tweezers. And then the final set, which I think is the most important, especially if you guys are into nano tanks. This is all you're going to need, a nice pair of pin set tweezers. With it being pin set, there's very little restriction on the gravel, so when it goes into the gravel, there's very little surface, so the gravel doesn't cause a restriction, it doesn't hold on to the tweezers. You can use things like, when you're planting things like Eleocaris palmula, straight up into the tank, just a slight release of the pressure, it just pops out real easy. If you're doing a big tank like that, you can do it real nice and quick, and it just makes life a lot easier. And also, it's much more intricate, getting into small places and things like that. That's currently planting the Hemianthus. Normally we wouldn't plant it like this. Normally it would be, yeah, there you go. Normally if you buy it in the rock wool, there's the rock wool on the base of the plant. Normally it's a bit longer than that. Usually if you buy it like that, I tend to cut it, get the scissors, I'll show you. I'll cut it, I'll go down the centre of the rock wool, gently spread it apart, and then I'll cut that again. And I'm just basically making nice little plugs. So that's what you plant into your tank. You plant that roughly, I would say about 2-3 centimetres apart, maybe next go on like that. By doing that, you're giving yourself a nice even cover. If you planted it like we planted it today, just for demonstrations, if you planted that into your aquarium, you look straight in there, what will happen is it'll grow very nice, but it'll grow like a dome, and then it doesn't look like that natural carpet effect. We've got the pictures of the ADA catalogue.
Yeah, we've got some stuff.
So it's worth actually physically breaking the plant up, spreading it out as far as you can. The same goes, we did it in this tank here. This is Echinodoras tenalis. It comes in a pot, 4 or 5 plants in a pot. Rather than take it out of the rock up and plonk it in, we split it up, we basically spread it on the whole of the tank, and eventually it'll create a nice little runner.
That's kind of the carpet we're looking to do. say Graham said, about a couple of centimetres apart each plug, and then eventually it will just spread outwards and grow into one carpet.
So a lot of you guys who are nature growing have probably seen this irrigating style setting, this lovely kind of very flat, very lawn effect on the aquascape. Like I say, you can't get that effect, or it would take longer to get that effect. You just plant it in like that, you need to split it up, physically break it into small pieces. Like I say, if you don't, all that's going to happen is it'll creep out that way, it'll just create like a bush. It will look very sort of, that in itself will look quite interesting. It's not what we tend to do.
Another thing that Dan's doing at the moment, you possibly have to come up and see later because you might not see from there, but he's planting into the sand at the front of the stones, but he's also finding the holes in the stones, because this dragon stone does have nice holes. You can actually plant into there, lift grade, and throw some HC into there, just to demonstrate. So there's your holes in your rock.
Nice tweezers again.
Yeah. Yeah, just pick one.
Yeah.
If you get enough HC in there, it will actually, it won't float out when you fill it with water, and it'll give a nice purchase on the rock, and eventually it'll start to creep over those edges. It looks really nice, really natural, just like you'd find in the stream in the Amazon. So Dan's actually doing that at the moment. He's just changed over to planting out some blossom.
I'm going to talk a little bit about sort of the maintenance of the plants that we're going to use. HC is really easy to maintain, to get that law effect. Oh, sorry. Hemianthus, sorry. HC we abbreviate in the UK, HC, Glosso, HM, I forget. Hemianthus calitrae cuba.